Today is the 80th anniversary of D-Day, the Allied landing at Normandy in 1944. There are not many World War II vets still with us. 16.4 million Americans served during the war. My grandfather, probably many of your fathers and grandfathers among them. As of last year, only 119,550, or 0.7%, were still around. And on the anniversary of perhaps their greatest triumph in that war, some of the remaining vets are feeling decidedly untriumphant.
When you're here with all of these brothers and people who experienced the war as you did, and also the subsequent wars in Korea and Vietnam, what do you think about the state of our country today? How do you feel about the country that you worked so hard to stay free, to keep free?
The real truth?
Yeah.
I feel like a foreigner in my own country lots of times, and I don't like it. It makes my heart real heavy. And I just hope we can pull out of this. There's too much Hollywood going on in Washington all the time. The important subjects they don't cover. So the thing is, I hope all the guys will rally up and we'll go back and straighten it all out.
So that's the kind of tough attitude that's very typical of that generation. But the feeling he's describing is devastating. I feel like a foreigner in my own country. And it is brutal because that feeling is not just the typical kind of feeling that comes to everyone with age. This is the consequence of a deliberate campaign to make Americans strangers in their own country. This is an intentional campaign to replace our country's traditions, laws, customs, language, social order, even people, with something else. We all sense that America has not simply progressed or developed, but that it's been changed on some fundamental level. This is not the same country, and it is going to take another historic effort to straighten it all out. I'm Michael Knowles. This is The Michael Knowles Show. Welcome back to the show. Male birth control is on the horizon. Yuck. We will get to that momentarily. First, though, you want to know what makes me feel a little bit better about the decaying state of our country? You want to know something good that I want to put in my body? Good Ranchers. Go to goodranchers.com. Use promo code Knowles. For an exclusive Father's Day treat, choose Good Ranchers. They've just unveiled their limited edition King Cut, available only for this special occasion. But you don't have to wait till Father's Day. Do you know what I had for breakfast this morning? I had eggs and steak. And you know where that steak was from? That steak was from Good Ranchers, and it was delicious. And I can still taste it because I had it like half an hour ago. The King Cut box is packed with thick cut bone-in ribeyes, center cut filet mignon, thick bone-in New York strips, all sourced from local family farms and aged 21 days to perfection. The work of a father never ends, so Good Ranchers is offering free bacon for life with any subscription. Make sure you use code Knowles to receive 2 packs of Good Ranchers uncured Applewood smoked bacon with every order. I don't know how they do it. Top quality meat, you get free bacon, you get the lowest prices out there. It's just unbelievable. Head on over to goodranchers.com. Use code Knowles, Knowles, Knowles at checkout right now to claim your free Applewood smoked bacon for life. That is goodranchers.com, promo code Knowles. Our political order is in real rough shape. And it's not just the veterans at the Normandy anniversary that are telling us this, and it's not just our politicians who are telling us this. It's anyone with eyes can see it. Here's just exhibit 552,321 that our political order is falling apart. A dead guy just won a Democrat primary for Congress. This took place in New Jersey. The late Representative Donald Payne Jr. just won the Democrat Party's primary on Tuesday with a little more than a month in the grave. So this guy died at the age of 65. It's very sad. Obviously, we pray for his soul, pray for his family. But he died over a month ago, and then he won the Democrat Party primary for Congress. Voters could have submitted a write-in alternative, but they didn't. They voted for a corpse, over any living person. Now, there's a Republican who's running, Carmen Bucco. He's considered a long shot even against a dead man in this race. Presumably what the Democrats will do is at their convention, they'll just swap out the guy who won the primary, who obviously can't run, for some other candidate, and the Republican almost certainly will not win. This is an indictment of the Democrat Party in part. I guess so many of the Democrat voters are dead people that it would stand to reason that, like is attracted to like, so they would vote for a dead guy. But it's not just an indictment of the Democrat Party. It's kind of an indictment of democracy, and not to be too catastrophic about it. In a functioning government, in a functioning body politic, even if you're a rabid partisan and you have to choose between a dead person and anyone else, you should vote for anyone else if you're serious about government. But we're not. A lot of people probably didn't even know the candidate was dead, and it doesn't really matter. We joke about how they wheel in Biden and they, either reanimate him with drugs or they put him on marionette strings and they just, traipse this cadaver through the White House as though he were the real president. But they're kind of proving that in New Jersey. They would vote for a dead person over a Republican because no one's really focused on the judgment of the politicians. That's something that we're supposed to take into account when we elect our representatives in a representative democracy. No one really cares about the individuals. No one really cares about their character. No one really cares about any of that. They just are NPCs, right? They just are zombies who are going about and who will vote for dead people. There's that old line that from an old Bob Hope movie that makes the rounds every election year, where the doctor is saying, these zombies, they're not like you and me. They're brainless. They're mindless. They just walk around not having any idea where they're going, any idea what they're doing. And Bob Hope says, oh, you mean like Democrats? Oh, here it is. They did it. They did the meme. They proved the joke. How long can a country endure and flourish when our government is being run by dead people or zombies? When the people who elect those who are supposed to run our government don't even look into whether or not these people are alive. Now, speaking of Biden and the Democrats' electoral pitch, Joe Biden's campaign spokesman just made a very unusual admission about the brain function or lack thereof that is necessary for candidates.
How much should a candidate's cognitive function factor into that decision when someone votes?
I don't even know what that question means. I mean,
when they.
Okay, how much does cognitive function matter in a campaign spokesman then? I guess we're going to have to ask that question at one further level of remove. You don't know what the phrase cognitive function means. Of course. Par for the course. I should have expected that. This is not a trick question. This is not a particularly complicated question. The words cognitive and function are not particularly complex or sophisticated. To what degree does a politician's brain need to work for him to be elected? What's that mean? Now, I hope she knows what it means and she's just trying to duck the question because Joe Biden is obviously senile and in decline. But maybe she doesn't know what it means. Maybe she's just, excuse me, could you use some synonyms? Could you define those words for me, please? I don't know. Yeah, of course you don't know. That's how we got in this mess in the first place. They don't they don't know. And more importantly, they don't care whether or not a politician's brain is working. And they don't care because they're electing a politician to be nothing more than a rubber stamp for an ideological agenda that they pretty much totally agree on. There are a few wedge issues within the Democrat Party. We've seen the Israel-Gaza war is a big wedge issue right now. But other than that, they're totally in lockstep. There are no blue dogs. There are no conservative Democrats anymore. It's just progressives. That's not true for the Republicans. It's not true for conservatives. Conservatives are divided on all sorts of questions. We're divided on the Ukraine-Russia war. I suppose the Israel-Gaza war to some degree too. We're divided on tariffs. Some Republicans are total free traders. Some are pro-tariff. We're divided on immigration. Some Republicans want more immigration. Some Republicans want less immigration. We're divided on the brashness of our candidates. Some like the kind of brash street rhetoric of Donald Trump. Some want the country club types. We're divided on everything. gay marriage, quote unquote, divided. Even there's some pro-Republicans divided on everything. There are all sorts of Republicans. And so the individual judgment of candidates really matters to conservatives. For the Democrats, they don't care. That's how they end up electing these sorts of cadavers. Because the Democrat agenda is very ideological. It's 5 bullet points on the back of a napkin, and it amounts to overturn everything, overturn tradition, upend the political order, abolish norms and standards, all in the name of liberation. It's a liberal political movement and maximizing individual autonomy and choice and mocking and pulling down the order of norms and taboos. That's the name of the game. And anyone can do that. You know, even the staffers pulling the marionette strings of the cadavers currently running our government. Now, this woman couldn't even give a simple yes or no to should candidates have working brains. That does not play very well in Peoria. It doesn't play very well with the American people. You're seeing this reflected in Democrats' poll numbers. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to rig the game. Obviously, they're prosecuting Trump. Obviously, they've imprisoned Trump associates. I think of Peter Navarro, a senior presidential advisor. He was the trade advisor who ends up being sent to prison. He's currently in jail because he refused to go along with the Democrats' hack partisan January 6th commission. And so he's the first senior presidential advisor ever to be thrown in jail for contempt of Congress. We know they're doing all of that, but it's not just the executive branch they're going after. They're not just trying to undermine executive privilege and the separation of powers between the Congress and the White House. They're also attacking separation of powers between the Congress and the judiciary. Dick Durbin, who's one of the most senior Democrats in the Senate, he's the Senate Majority Whip, he just got up and demanded that Justice Alito recuse himself from the politically important cases.
Displaying the upside-down American flag and appeal to heaven flag creates the appearance that Justice Alito has already aligned himself with the Stop the Steal campaign. He cannot credibly claim to be an umpire calling balls and strikes in these cases. He has donned the jersey of his favorite team. That's why I called on Justice Alito to recuse himself, and why I urged Chief Justice Roberts to finally step up and take the steps necessary to ensure that Justice Alito does not sit on those cases, and rather that he recuse himself.
The most charitable take one can have on Dick Durbin here is that he's a complete idiot. That's the charitable take. The more likely take, I don't think he's a complete idiot. So the more likely take is just that he's lying. He says the upside down flag is a symbol that you've aligned yourself with the Stop the Steal campaign. The upside down flag is a universal symbol of distress. And its particular expression is usually distress at sea. If a ship is flying the flag upside down, it means they're probably going down and they're calling for help. But obviously, symbolically, it is a symbol of political distress more broadly. Fair enough, since liberals were trying to murder the Supreme Court justices after someone on the court, almost certainly a liberal, leaked the Dobbs decision, which was practically speaking a call to arms for someone to go murder the judges, so that if the conservatives didn't have a majority, the Dobbs decision wouldn't be ratified. That's what that came down to. That would give me some distress. If prominent liberals were implicitly calling for my murder, and then liberals actually showed up to the houses of at least my colleagues and tried to murder us, that would give me some distress. So I think he was probably justified in flying the flag upside down. And then the appeal to heaven flag. I have this collection of flags on my desk here. This is a flag. I don't know. I guess there's an extra flag. I don't know where that slot goes. I'll put that in my drawer. I've got too many revolutionary flags on my desk. I've had this since I started at DailyWire, long before the Stop the Steal campaign. The Appeal to Heaven flag is one of the earliest American flags. It was flying on government property in San Francisco, of all places, until very, very recently. This is one of the great symbols, a flag flown on ships commissioned by George Washington. But Dick Durbin's got to rewrite that history too. They have to rewrite the history. They have to prosecute their rivals. They have to pressure judges. Why do they have to do those things? Because they know that they can't win fair and square. And as they tighten their grip on power in a way that is off-putting to an increasing number of the American people, you're going to see public opinion shift even more in Trump's direction, which means that the Democrats have two options. They can let up, fight a fair fight, and let Trump go back into the White House, or they can tighten their grip even more. Which one do you think they're going to pick? What they're going to pick is not going to be the option that's very healthy for our country. But when you care about your individual health, you got to go check out Lumen. Go to lumen.me and use code Knowles. It's really tough to prioritize your health, especially if you're not sure where to start. Listen, I'm not exactly the most athletic guy in the world. I love my Lumen. It makes taking control of your health super duper easy, which is great for me. Because taking care of your health is not just about making a decision. It's about making a commitment to a better quality of life. Lumen is there for you. Lumen is the world's first handheld metabolic coach. It's a device that measures your metabolism through your breath. All you have to do is breathe into your Lumen first thing in the morning. You will know what is going on with your metabolism, whether you're burning mostly fats or carbs, takes your unique metabolic data and crafts a personalized nutrition plan for that day, tailor-made to your body's needs and goals. You don't need to think about it twice. Lumen does all the work. With Lumen, you're not just getting a device, you're getting a health companion. Breathe into it before and after workouts and meals. Gain real-time insights into your body's metabolic response. Lumen will provide you with actionable tips to help you stay on top of your health game. So if you want to improve your health, go to lumen.me. Use Knowles, Knowles, to get $100 off your Lumen. LUMEN.me. Code Knowles at checkout for $100 off. Thank you, Lumen, for sponsoring this show. Speaking of fairness, Maya Hawke. Maya Hawke is a young actress. She played that character in Stranger Things, who was a kind of delightful character, and you thought that she was going to end up hooking up with the guy. I think Steve was the character's name. And it was a great story. And then because the libs have to ruin everything, out of nowhere at the end of the season, spoiler alert, they decided to make her a lesbian because everyone needs to be a lesbian now because everything's super gay because we live in 2024. Anyway, that's a slight digression. Maya Hawke, nice young actress. And she was asked recently about how she got her start in the acting business, how she was cast in Quentin Tarantino's 2019 movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. And on the red carpet, she said, oh, well, when I auditioned for the part, X, Y, and Z happened. And people made fun of her for this because they said, you didn't get the part because you auditioned. You got the part because your mother is in every Quentin Tarantino movie and your father is a major movie star. And you got it because of nepotism. You're a Nepo baby, Maya Hawke. And then Maya Hawke responded to that and said, sorry, duh. I didn't mean to insinuate anything else. Of course I got the job because my mother is Uma Thurman and my father is Ethan Hawke. Yeah, of course. She says, I've been wildly made fun of for this clip when I said on the red carpet that I auditioned. I never meant to imply I didn't get the part for nepotistic reasons. I think I totally did. She goes on and she says, look, that's what am I going to do? She said, I could get a nose job and change my name and go to open casting calls, but if I want to, this is my name, this is who I am, this is how I was raised, and I don't think there's really anything wrong with that. And Maya Hawke is totally right. She's totally right. Nepo babies are good, actually. A healthy nepotism is actually good for society. And that's not a liberal or leftist idea. That's actually very conservative. Because why does Maya Hawke get these parts? Why is she able to just act in movies? It's not a super easy job. Actually, acting can be kind of difficult. And I'm not saying she's the greatest actress in the world. Maybe she could be. I don't know. I'm not totally familiar with her work. But if you grow up and your parents do a thing, you're going to be more familiar with that thing. If that thing is just around you for your whole life and you're raised in it and you're steeped in it, you're going to be more inclined toward that thing. That's how education works. That's how culture works. That's how tradition works. If you plucked a random person off of the street and said, hey, today you're the King of England, go. Do you think that person would be better or worse equipped to be the King of England than, say, Prince William? Prince William, whose family has sat on the throne in England for centuries. Probably Prince William, because he was just raised in it, and he knows how the palaces work, and he knows who the butlers are, and he knows what the events are like, and he saw his father do it, and he saw his grandmother and grandfather do it, and you kind of know. Generational continuity is a good thing. Nepo babies are a good thing. I'm not a Nepo baby. I like that there's opportunity for it. That's true, but there's nothing wrong with going into the same line of work that your parents are in. There's nothing wrong. That's that's actually good for society and provides some stability, and it provides and encourages the continuation of expertise. The notion that you should never have any privilege because of how your parents live their lives, the notion that we should never have any continuity within families, that's a radically liberal notion. The calls for radical meritocracy or whatever, those are very liberal, radical, left notions. The conservatives, we like conserving things, and we recognize that there's more to growing up in education than just, reading a manifesto or just starting the world anew with each generation. There is such a thing as generational knowledge. That's the sort of thing we're trying to conserve. Now, there is a dark side to nepotism. I turn, of course, to Hunter Biden. This would be Hunter Biden. He did not take whatever advantages his father gave him and then build on them and cultivate them. No, he actually just traded him in. He just traded on his name, and any virtues that Joe Biden might possess, so there's probably one or two of them, he ignored those, and he lived a life of total vice and traded on his dad's name and made millions and millions of dollars from some of the worst people on earth. Here we have another conspiracy theory proven true. The DOJ is now prosecuting Hunter. They tried not to prosecute Hunter. They tried to give him a sweetheart deal to let him off the hook without any consequences for his many, many crimes, his gun crimes, his sex crimes, his financial crimes, his political crimes, all of his crimes that we've seen on his laptop. The laptop that we were told was fake Russian disinformation. The laptop which, when the story broke, New York Post, October 2020, right before the election, look at this, Hunter involved in lots of crimes, Hunter implicating Joe Biden in lots of crimes and political corruption. We were told it's fake news. The intelligence agencies told us it was fake news. The big tech companies censored the story. Not only could you not post that extremely relevant political news story, but you couldn't even private message it on some social media platforms. Then we find out totally true. And we found out it's totally true because the DOJ is submitting it as evidence. Now that they weren't able to give Hunter the sweetheart deal, now that they have to actually prosecute him for at least some of the crimes he committed, not the most serious ones, turns out it's totally true. The FBI agent Erica Jensen testified in court that the agency had verified the laptop as belonging to Hunter through its serial number and records from Apple, according to CNN. I'm really glad we found that out 4 years after it mattered. 4 years after we were called conspiracy theorists and Russian stooges and crypto KGB agents for observing that the Biden family is extremely corrupt. Really glad we figured that out 4 years after a poll was taken following the election, which showed that a huge number, something like 12% of Democrats, would have changed their vote had they known about the Hunter Biden laptop, which would have swung the election, of course. And it's a great moral victory, but they got their political victory. And Hunter is almost certainly going to get off the hook anyway. And so the question is, are we going to keep fighting that fight? See, we were right. We were right about COVID. We were right about Fauci. We were right about Hunter. We were right about this. We were right about that. Or are we going to look, what are they doing right now? What is the lie? What is the hoax that they're pulling right now to steal the election? And the obvious answer is the prosecution of Donald Trump on ridiculous grounds. He just got convicted of 34 felonies without the Democrats even articulating what crime he committed. That's what they're doing now. That's the Hunter Biden laptop of 2024. And it's going to be controverted in the press. And 4 years from now, everyone's going to admit, okay, Trump maybe didn't really commit any crimes, but that's going to be after it matters. There's always a new one of these things going on. Now, folks, we got to talk about something that every man needs in his grooming kit. That is Jeremy's second-generation razors. Here, bigger, better, blacker. And wait for it, an Amazon #1 bestseller. So you might be wondering, how does my skin stay so manly and yet soft and supple at the same time? While other razor companies are throwing money at woke ideology, Jeremy's razors are focused on one thing, and one thing only, that's making a great razor. The second-gen razors feature a new ergonomic handle for superior durability and sharper, longer-lasting blades. They're not made in China. Choose the brand new Sprint 3 for a quick, clean shave, or the new radically redesigned Precision 5 for an exceptionally smooth and close shave. Both are now available on Amazon. Spend your money with a company that values quality over DEI compliance. Get your Jeremy's second-gen razor today on Amazon and shave like a man, not a manifesto. Speaking of paternity, grossest story of the week. Male birth control is on the horizon. This, according to the Washington Post. male birth control gel shows promise in early stage clinical trials. So the article opens up. I'll just give you the highlights. It says, in the realm of reproductive health, male birth control has loomed as a long-standing quest. Put a pause here. What kind of quest is that? I'm not questing for that. Normal people I know are not questing for that. Most men I know don't want to geld themselves. So who's seeking the liberals are seeking this male birth control on their great quest. Recently, a combination hormonal topical gel has shown promise by suppressing sperm production in a shorter amount of time than experimental products tested in other clinical trials. One of the people behind this innovation says, there are a lot of women who have difficulties with various contraceptive methods, and one eye-opening aspect of the clinical trial has been listening to women and hearing what it meant to them to be in the study, especially when they were able to stop using their birth control for a year. Yeah, I totally agree. Hormonal birth control is terrible. And the fact that we prescribe it in this country, not only to grown women, but also to really young girls, they'll put 12 and 13-year-old girls on this, and they'll come up with all sorts of fake reasons why they're doing it. But it's to get them on birth control, and it's bad. And they say, look, this has no effect on your long-term fertility or health. It's a little hard for me to believe that when you're just radically altering the hormones of very young girls and then keeping them on it for a decade, 2 decades. You don't think that has any effects whatsoever? I'm a little bit skeptical. But the article goes on. The only effective forms of birth control on the market for men are vasectomies, which are not easily reversible, and condoms, which have a low acceptance rate. Now, this is really telling. Vasectomies, obviously, a lot of men are opposed to this. One, because it's very difficult to reverse them. But two, most men don't want to geld themselves. Okay? They don't want to castrate themselves. And I know it's like a little bit different. It's not, but that's kind of what it feels like, right? You go in and you get a little snip, snip. Most guys don't want to do that. They do not want to become vasectomites. Okay, and it's for whatever reason, that's why that has a low acceptance rate. But what else has a low acceptance rate here? The really simple method of contraception, which is condoms. Why does it have a low acceptance rate? Because most people know that it's icky and wrong. Most people know that there's something disordered about that kind of artificial contraception. Most people recognize that it is a symbol of withholding from your sexual partner, withholding something of yourself. So you're not giving of yourself totally, which is supposed to be what love is. And we all know that implicitly. And obviously, you're only supposed to do that act when you are married. And so if you use condoms when you're married, then it seems even more disordered somehow, because you've pledged your whole life to this spouse. You said, we're going to come together and become one flesh, and what God has joined, let no man separate. But actually, I'm going to let this little piece of plastic separate us because I want to withhold something from you that would realize our love. It would make our love so real that it would actually create another person. And most people just realize implicitly that is icky and wrong and gross and offensive. So they don't use it. Again, don't say that it's me, the social conservative or the prude or the whatever, that's going on an invective against condoms. The article itself is admitting most people hate condoms. I'm just explaining why that is. I'm explaining why they're pushing for this gross birth control. Because what they want with contraception, what I think people really want is they want contraception. They want to be able to have promiscuous sex. They don't want to deal with the consequences of sex, which is children. But they don't want to be conscious of that fact. They want it to seem like they're having normal relations, but they don't want to deal with the consequences of normal relations. They want to have their cake and eat it too. So how does this work? The way it works, according to the article, is the 5 milliliter hormonal gel is applied once daily and split between the shoulder blades. Okay, that's not where I would have expected, but all right, you get a little shoulder massage. The gel's progesterone acetate component, which is a synthetic progesterone, suppresses hormones needed to maintain testosterone concentrations in the male sexual organ, which is where the sperm are made, thereby inhibiting sperm production. The testosterone component in this 2-part system ensures that testosterone levels are essential for male physiological processes and health are maintained at stable levels. Okay, so you just rub a bunch of lady hormones on your shoulders, and then your virile, potent center of your body stops producing the male hormone or stops doing the things that happen in the vital center of the male, reproductive organ. But then they'll also give you a little testosterone to kind of offset it. And this is so fitting for Pride Month because this is so gay. This is like the gayest thing ever. You imagine 100 pride parades walking down the street, Haight-Ashbury in San Francisco. That is not half as gay as this male birth control gel that kills your male hormones and gelds you. This is so, and I mean that word, which is probably being censored on YouTube, in a really technical way. It's not. I don't mean gay just like a schoolyard taunt. I mean gay in that this partakes of a gay anthropology. Okay, because this is sterile. The whole point of this is sterility. The whole point of this is to have to engage in sexual acts that will not be fruitful and will not produce anything, will not come to any end. And so then my second takeaway reading this is, man, this is a lot of effort and a lot of money, a lot of really smart people with a lot of really fancy degrees devoting their lives to helping people avoid one of life's greatest blessings. Like, wow, that seems like a lot of misdirected energy. Just have kids, guys. Kids are great, okay? Just get married and have kids and be normal and have a good life. People are just so hell-bent on not having a good life. It's crazy. Men are, that meme, men would rather X, Y, and Z than talk to a therapist. Men would rather rub a weird, expensive jelly that took 100 years to produce that effectively gelds them on their shoulder blades than just like have kids and have a good normal life. Just, why would you? This is so degrading. Every aspect of this is so degrading. It's so emasculating. It's so gay. I can't, oh man, good grief. Guys, just have kids. A lot of people want to have kids and they can't have kids. And these weirdos are buying expensive gels and rubbing it all over themselves to avoid having kids. What a bunch of weirdos. Now, one of the consequences of not having kids is that our political elites push for mass migration. So our country has not been having kids for about 50 years. Like, we have kids, some people have kids, but we don't have enough kids to replace the people who are dying. So that's been true since 1971. And what have we done as a response to that? We've imported people from foreign cultures. And this has led to social instability, as mass migration always does. And it's led to a decay of trust in our political institutions, an upending of our political traditions, and just a ton of different people in the country. And, a country is made up of its people. So if you have totally new people in a country, when you have a kind of a totally new country, you will feel like a stranger in you're in your own country, because when you dial up customer service, you're going to have to press 1 or 2 for English. That's a crazy thing in your own kind of America to have to press a special button if you want to hear instructions in your native tongue. That is a sign that your country is unrecognizable. That is a sign that you are a stranger, a foreigner in your own land. So what do we do about this? Well, it's a little bit chicken and the egg. Part of the reason that people have fewer children now is because of mass migration, because wages have been suppressed. It's hard to raise a family. It's expensive to have kids. That's part. It's not, I'm not even saying that's the primary reason why people aren't having kids, but that is one of the reasons. One of the reasons people aren't having kids is because of a leftist, liberationist ideology that says that all limits are bad. The limits of borders are very bad. The limits of the moral order and the sexual ethic are very bad. So if you were to correct that extremely liberal ideology, that might bring behaviors back into line. But it's a little bit the chicken or the egg. You can't stop the mass migration while people aren't having kids, because then the economy implodes. But you're not going to have people start to have a lot of kids while you still have mass migration, which is demoralizing for the political order. So Tom Cotton has a solution. Tom Cotton is proposing a bill that would ban birthright citizenship for the kids of illegal aliens. It's called the Constitutional Citizenship Clarification Act. It's a bill that aims to enshrine in statute the ambassadors and invaders exceptions to birthright citizenship. So we get this notion of birthright citizenship from the 14th Amendment, and then it's expressed elsewhere in our law. And it says that, if you're born here and subject to the jurisdiction thereof, you're a citizen. And this was put into our Constitution to deal with what to do with the freed slaves who the Supreme Court previously had said could not become American citizens. So what do? You have this huge portion of the population that can't ever be citizens. No, the 14th Amendment says they are citizens. But this was extrapolated to say that now, anyone who's born here automatically becomes a citizen. This is not the norm throughout the world. It's the norm throughout the Anglosphere, but it's not really the norm throughout the rest of the world. And it's led to all sorts of political problems, and it's created bad incentives. And now you have people just coming over with the help of criminal cartels to have anchor babies because they know it's going to get them a lot of political advantages. So it's not true of anyone who's born here. If you're the child of an ambassador, if you're the ambassador from Sweden to the United States, the Swedish ambassador's wife has a kid while she's here. That kid does not automatically become a U.S. citizen. So there have always been exceptions to this. And Cotton's bill would clarify those exceptions, would bar children of illegal aliens, foreign terrorists, and foreign spies from being entitled to birthright citizenship. It would amend Section 301 of the Immigration and Nationality Act, and it would therefore clarify that, quote, a person born in the U.S. shall not be considered subject to jurisdiction of the United States in the person of alien parents who are unlawfully present in the United States, present in the U.S. for diplomatic purposes, engaged in a hostile occupation of or a hostile operation in the United States. There you go, simple as. Who would oppose this? The people who would oppose this are the people who think that they will get a political advantage. Either the people who think that citizenship is bogus and nations are bogus and borders are bogus. And so they just think we're all citizens of the world, man, and there should be no limits. Radical liberals think that. Or cynical liberals who think that they get a political advantage by flooding the country with foreigners to radically change the country because they don't like the country because they, in the words of Barack Obama, want to fundamentally transform America, which is a sign that you hate your own country, which they do. The Center for Immigration Studies found in a study about 6 years ago, there were about 300,000 births per year to illegal aliens. Now, that might not seem like a lot in a country of 330 million people. 300,000 births per year to illegal aliens is larger than the total number of births in any other state in the country other than California and Texas. So illegal aliens are the most fecund, fertile state in the country if you took them all as a whole, other than these two gigantic states, California and Texas. How long does that continue before you have a radically different country? Are we assimilating these illegal aliens? No, we discourage them from assimilating. Are we bringing in migrants gradually? So no, we're flooding the zone with the migrants. Are we doing this because this is what our founding fathers want, or this is what even the authors of the 14th Amendment wanted, or the people who were alive at the time of the ratification of the 14th Amendment? No, it's just a loophole. There has always been, as I mentioned earlier, in the Anglosphere, or for a very long time in the Anglosphere, a notion of birthright citizenship. And in America, this was clarified by a Supreme Court case about 125, 130 years ago. But even going back further, there's this notion of the idea of jus soli, the right of the soil. This is contrasted with jus sanguinis, the right of blood right citizenship. And most countries in the world have, the vast majority of countries in the world have blood-based citizenship, right? Jus sanguinis. But we're in the Anglosphere, we're in the English tradition, so we have this idea of jus soli. Okay, that's fine. But even the countries with a tradition of birthright citizenship have laws that regulate it. So we're not saying obliterate birthright citizenship entirely. We're just saying there's this loophole that's causing lots of political problems that's obviously being exploited in recent years by very bad actors, and so we're going to correct that. That is a very common sense proposal. What Tom Cotton is suggesting here is not throwing bombs. It's not an upending of the American tradition. It's a relatively modest proposal, a common sense proposal to clarify a very contentious and silly aspect of the law. Pay attention to who opposes it, because it's not just going to be the libs. There are going to be a lot of squishes who oppose it too, out of ignorance or out of cynicism, because they're the court jesters in the kingdom of liberalism whose only job is to lose. My favorite comment yesterday is from Mr. Drew 1. Who says, Amazon Tribe gets the internet and immediately gets addicted to social media and weird sex stuff. Thanks, Al Gore. Yeah, real nice, Al Gore. This is what we get. Imagine if that guy had become president. Every little untouched tribe in the world would be addicted to Facebook and by now. Do people still use Facebook? Is it? Or TikTok, I guess, would be the more up-to-date reference. But speaking of social media, I'm very sorry to say that X, formerly known as Twitter, is now officially allowing. So I guess this is good for that Amazon tribe, because now they can get everything they want on the internet in one place. We've all seen a ton of if you use Twitter or X, rather, in recent months, you've seen a ton of, because everything you tweet, there's some bot will respond and will say nudes in bio in all kind of weird fonts. So they try to evade some of the censorship. I've started posting, banjo videos in bio, right? Whatever I'm trying to push, cigar links in bio. But I don't know, those get censored more than the probably. Well, now they don't need to censor it. They don't need to try to get around it because X added clauses to its rules, officially allowing, quote, "We believe that users should be able to create, distribute, and consume material related to sexual themes as long as it is consensually produced and distributed. Sexual expression, visual or written, can be a legitimate form of artistic expression." Well, hold on. This is under the adult content policies. Sexual expression can be a legitimate form of artistic expression. There are sexual themes described in great literature, depicted in great paintings, written about in the Bible, for goodness sakes. But that's different from an artistically significant sexual depiction or description is different from in a actually a pretty clear way. It's not, everyone wants to blur these lines. We go back to the Justice Potter Stewart line. I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. No, you actually can define it. Just that it appeals primarily to the prurient interest. It's just about arousing you. Whereas sexual scenes that do have artistic merit and literary merit and philosophical or theological merit for that matter, do not appeal primarily to your loins. They appeal primarily to your head. They appeal primarily to your reason. That's the difference. We used to know these things. So what X is doing here is they're blurring the lines intentionally. They're saying, what? You think that there's no sexual content that could have artistic merit? No, of course there is. But that's not what you're doing. You're allowing some OnlyFans people to go out and just prostitute themselves on the platform and entice young men into giving them a bunch of money and at the very least giving them their attention and messing up their heads and screwing up their souls. That's what you're doing. And you're pretending it's some matter of artistic expression. But it's not. Later on, X gets to what this is really about. X says, "We believe in the autonomy of adults to engage with and create content that reflects their own beliefs, desires, and experiences, including those related to sexuality. We balance this freedom by restricting exposure to adult content for children or adult users who choose not to see it." Okay, good. I'm glad we can opt out of it. I'm skeptical that will work, but that's fine. I'm glad that children can opt out of it, or it won't be presented to children. I'm not sure why children are on X anyway. But this is the whole game. We believe in the autonomy of adults to do whatever the hell they want. That's it. This is the supposedly conservative social media platform. Ah, conservatism. Ah, sweet, sweet conservatism. Also known as liberalism from 5 years ago. Oh, it's so sweet, isn't it? What big victories we have. We now that Elon Musk has purchased Twitter from the evil liberals, now, finally, we conservatives can get all over the platform. What a win. And I like Elon Musk. I think he's a net force for good in politics. But Elon Musk is a radical liberal in his own words. He's a classical liberal or a libertarian or something like that. And liberalism and conservatism are different. Liberalism is about the autonomy of adults to do whatever the hell they want. And conservatism is not really about it. Conservatism just has a different view of how the will works and how freedom works and how the intellect works. And we just think that, yeah, if I want real freedom, I don't want to see anywhere because it clouds my freedom because it appeals to my loins and it makes me go crazy. Like my reason has less control over my person when I'm constantly in a state of arousal or temptation. That's the conservative view. That's the classical view of freedom. It's not the libertarian view, of course. 16 years ago in this country, we sent a to federal prison for obscenity. Not for filming children, just for obscenity. Okay, that was 16 years ago. That wasn't so long ago. Now, not even the conservatives would defend that. Now the conservatives are defending what? On Twitter? That's the great win. Why? Because of free speech, because of unfettered free speech. That's a liberal value too. What are we conserving? And then we take that as a victory. This is you want to hear the great victory. You might have heard this reported this week. Great news this Pride Month. 11 NFL teams didn't issue Pride Month tweets. And here are the teams. The teams are the Pittsburgh Steelers, Cleveland Browns, Cincinnati Bengals, the Titans, the Chiefs, the Broncos, the Cowboys, the Packers, the Saints, and the Falcons. Oh, this is a big win. The tide is turning against the Rainbow Coalition in the Pride Month. Yeah, maybe. I don't know. I Googled. First of all, the Packers did issue a tweet, so now we're down to 10, maybe 9. I don't know if more have issued since then. But then I just Googled. I said, all right, Steelers Pride. It pulls up on the Steelers website a whole Pride section of their shop. Love wins. Love, love, love. Pride, pride, pride. Rainbows on their stuff. Then I said, what about the Bengals? I don't know. Let's look up the Bengals. Same kind of thing. I said, what about the Cowboys? The Cowboys are actually a pretty conservative team. I thought, at least. Same thing. Same thing. We take these great victories that would have been radical liberalism 20 years ago. If you told someone 20 years ago, every NFL team on their website is going to be promoting LGBT, people wouldn't have even known what that acronym meant back then probably, but they'll be promoting like gay pride on their NFL websites. People would say, what? How far left has our country gotten? But now the country has moved so far to the left that now we say, oh, great. All the football teams are just promoting the rainbow flag on their website. Wow, what a victory. That's not a victory. That's a cope. That's a total cope. We allowed the Supreme Court to radically redefine marriage in our law, obliterate the basic political institution. And then, that was the Obergefell decision. Then in the Bostock decision, we allowed the Supreme Court to redefine sex for the purposes of our civil rights law and say that there's some right of a man to wear a dress at work. It's all just cope until we overturn those things. Any supposed victory we're making is just a cope to habituate ourselves to a radical kind of liberalism that no one, including the Clinton Democrats, would have tolerated even 25 years ago. Okay, today is Theology Thursday. The rest of the show continues now. You do not want to miss it. Become a member. Use code Knowles, KNWLES, at checkout for 2 months free on all annual plans.